Some people build empires to prove something, others build them to forget. The difference matters. It lives in the way a man walks into a room, in the way he speaks to people who can give him nothing, in the small, invisible choices he makes when no one important is watching. Miami in August is a contradiction, a city of glass and heat, where towers full of money rise above streets full of hunger, where you can eat a $200 lunch on Brickell Avenue and step over someone sleeping on cardboard before you reach your car, a city that worships reinvention, that asks no questions about where you came from, only about what you can afford. Marcus Webb loved Miami for exactly this reason. 41 years old, founder and CEO of Apex Crypto Exchange, $6 billion in managed assets, a corner office on the 52nd floor with a view that made the ocean look like something he owned. Forbes called him a visionary. Bloomberg called him relentless. His employees called him nothing at all. At least not to his face. They whispered in break rooms and encrypted group chats. They shared stories about his temper, about the way he fired people mid-sentence, about the time he made a junior analyst cry during a presentation and then laughed about it in the elevator. But Marcus didn't care what they whispered. Whispers were for people who hadn't made it, people who still needed approval, people who remembered what it felt like to be small. Marcus had spent 20 years learning how to forget. The conference room on 52 was designed to intimidate. Floor-to-ceiling windows, a table that cost more than most people's houses, 12 leather chairs arranged around it like a jury box. On the wall, 3 massive screens displayed the Apex logo, a geometric triangle pointing upward towards something that looked like heaven, but was probably just money. Today was important. Singapore investors, a potential $200 million injection that would push Apex into Asian markets. Marcus had spent 6 months preparing for this meeting. Every slide, every number, every carefully rehearsed pause, designed to make him look like the kind of man who didn't need their money but was graciously allowing them to participate in his success. He stood at the head of the table, remote in hand, mid-sentence about Q3 projections. Our liquidity ratios have outperformed every major competitor by... The door opened. Not a dramatic opening, not a burst. Just the soft, almost apologetic sound of a door being pushed by someone who didn't expect anyone to be inside. A woman entered, 60, maybe 65. Gray hair pulled back in a tight bun, blue uniform, yellow rubber gloves. A cleaning cart behind her with mops and sprays and the tools of a job that most people in this room had trained themselves not to see. She froze when she saw the crowd. Her eyes went wide. She started to back out. "I'm sorry, I didn't know." Clearly. Marcus's voice cut through the room like a blade. He didn't yell. He didn't need to. His tone carried the kind of cold authority that made yelling unnecessary. The Singapore investors shifted in their seats. The room went still. The woman stood in the doorway, half in and half out, caught between escape and paralysis. "This is a private meeting," Marcus said. "Invitation only, board members, investors, people who actually belong here." He let the last word land. Belong. A small word. A surgical word. The kind of word that tells someone exactly where they stand in the hierarchy of human value. "I apologize," the woman said quietly. "The schedule said this room was empty until 4. "The schedule was wrong. You were wrong. And now you're interrupting a conversation that's worth more than you'll earn in a lifetime." Silence. The investors stared at their tablets. His own executives studied the table like it contained the secrets of the universe. No one spoke. No one defended her. That was the culture Marcus had built. A culture where power flowed in one direction and everyone understood their place. The woman should have left. That was the script. apologize, retreat, disappear. Let the important people continue their important conversation, go back to being invisible. But she didn't leave. She stepped fully into the room. Let the door close behind her, and she looked at Marcus Webb, billionaire, visionary, master of reinvention, with an expression he hadn't seen in 20 years. Recognition. Not the recognition of fame, not the recognition of magazine covers and TED Talks. Something older, something deeper, something that made Marcus feel, for the first time in 2 decades, like a teenager again. Hungry, scared, sleeping behind a dumpster in Little Havana with nothing but a stolen backpack and a dream he didn't dare speak out loud. "I know you," she said. And the room changed. Capítulo 2. Chá o desenvolvimento, a conexão. 800 palavras. Tom. Empático, imersivo, tensão crescente. Marcus felt the floor shift beneath him. Not literally. The building was solid. The glass was reinforced. Everything in his life was engineered to be unshakable. But something in the way this woman looked at him made the whole architecture of his existence feel suddenly fragile. "I think you're confused," he said. His voice was steady, controlled. The voice of a man who had practiced never being caught off guard. "I've never seen you before in my life." The woman smiled, sad, patient. The kind of smile mothers give children who lie about obvious things. "No," she said. "You've never seen this uniform before. You've never seen the gray hair. You've never seen the woman I became after life finished teaching me its lessons." She took a step closer. "But you've seen me, Marco. You've seen me every day for 3 years. You just trained yourself to forget." Marco. The name landed like a fist. No one called him that. No one alive knew that name. Marcus Webb was a construction, a careful invention built on the ashes of a boy who no longer existed. Marco Vargas had died 20 years ago in a 1-bedroom apartment in Little Havana, the night his mother stopped breathing and left him with nothing but debt and hunger and a rage that would take decades to understand. "My name is Marcus," he said, but his voice cracked, just slightly, just enough. The Singapore investors exchanged glances. His CFO cleared his throat. Someone's phone buzzed, and no one reached for it. "Sit down, Marcus." His COO spoke up, trying to regain control. "Let security handle this. We have a presentation to finish." "No." The woman's voice was calm, but absolute. "He can call security after I say what I came to say. 20 years is long enough to wait." She looked around the room, at the leather chairs, at the screens, at the view that cost more than her entire neighborhood. "You built all this," she said to Marcus. "Impressive, really. I read about you sometimes. Magazines and waiting rooms. My granddaughter showed me your TED Talk on her phone. The future of decentralized finance." She chuckled softly. Big words for a boy who once asked me what collateral meant. Marcus's face went pale. "Do you remember the restaurant?" she asked. "Sabor de Cuba, Calle Ocho. You slept behind our dumpster for 2 months before I found you, 17 years old. Skinny, angry, eyes like a dog that had been kicked too many times. The room was frozen. No one moved. No one breathed. I brought you inside," she continued. "Fed you rice and beans. Let you wash dishes for cash under the table. My husband said I was crazy. He'll steal from us," he said. "He'll bring trouble. But I saw something in you. Something behind the anger." Marcus remembered. He remembered everything. The smell of that kitchen, the heat of the industrial dishwasher, the way his hands cracked from the soap and the hot water. The first real meal he'd eaten in weeks. Black beans, sweet plantains, a piece of bread that tasted like salvation. And he remembered her. Elena Dominguez. The woman who had looked at a starving, feral teenager and seen a human being worth saving. 3 years, Elena said. You worked in my kitchen for 3 years. I taught you to cook. My husband taught you to fix things. We helped you get your GED. We co-signed your first apartment. Her voice trembled slightly. When you got accepted to community college, I cried. I told everyone in the neighborhood, this boy is going to be something. This boy is going to make us proud. Marcus wanted to speak, wanted to explain, but his throat had closed around words that wouldn't come. And then you left, Elena said, which was fine. That's what children do. They leave. They build their own lives. I didn't expect you to stay. She paused. But I expected you to remember. Elena, 20 years, Marco. Her voice cracked now, too. Not one phone call, not one letter, not even when my husband died, not even when the restaurant closed. I watched you on television, talking about innovation and disruption, and I thought, maybe he's busy. Maybe he'll reach out when things calm down. Maybe he didn't forget. She looked around the room again, at the people who worked for the boy she had fed. But you didn't just forget, she said. You erased us. You erased everything about where you came from. You became this man who tells cleaning ladies they don't belong. She reached into the pocket of her uniform and pulled out a photograph, faded, worn at the edges. She placed it on the conference table. Marcus looked down. A younger version of himself stared back. 19 years old, skinny, smiling. Standing in front of Saber de Cuba with Elena and her husband Roberto. On the back, handwritten words in Spanish, Nuestro hijo de otra madre. Our son from another mother. He had forgotten the photograph existed, but the photograph had not forgotten him. Security is on the way, his COO announced, phone in hand. No. Marcus's voice was barely a whisper. Cancel it. Marcus, we have investors. I said cancel it. The room went silent again. Elena stood there, waiting. The same patience she'd shown a starving boy behind a dumpster 20 years ago. You wanted to know if I belong here? She said quietly. I built the man who built this company. So you tell me, Marco, where exactly do I belong? The silence in the room was absolute. 12 people, billions of dollars in collective net worth, the most powerful conference room in Miami's financial district. And all of it had been rendered irrelevant by a 65-year-old woman in a cleaning uniform holding a faded photograph. Marcus stared at the picture, at the boy he used to be, at the smile he had forgotten how to make. Elena, he said, I can explain. No. She held up her hand. I didn't come here for explanations. Explanations are what people give when they want forgiveness without change. I came here for something else. She reached into her cart, past the mops, past the cleaning supplies, and pulled out a manila folder, thick, worn, held together with a rubber band that had seen better days. Do you know what this is? Marcus shook his head. This is you. She placed the folder on the table next to the photograph. Every article, every interview, every profile piece. Every time your face appeared in a magazine or your name appeared in a headline, I cut it out and saved it. She opened the folder. Clippings spilled across the polished conference table. Forbes, Bloomberg, Wired, TechCrunch, the Wall Street Journal, hundreds of pieces spanning 2 decades. "I watched you become this," she said, "from a distance, like watching a movie about someone I used to know. And every time I read about your success, I felt 2 things." She paused. Pride and grief. Marcus couldn't look away from the clippings. His entire career, his entire constructed identity laid out on a table by the woman who had known him before any of it existed. Pride, because I knew the boy underneath all of this. The boy who worked 18-hour shifts without complaining. The boy who read business books in the storage room during his breaks. The boy who told me once that he wanted to build something so big that no one could ever make him feel small again. She touched one of the clippings gently. And grief because I watched that boy disappear. I watched him become someone who humiliates strangers. Someone who measures human worth in dollars. Someone who looks at a cleaning lady and sees nothing. Marcus felt something breaking inside him. A wall he had spent 20 years building, crack by crack, starting to crumble. "You want to know something funny?" Elena continued. "I've worked in this building for 6 months. Same floor, same schedule. I've cleaned this conference room 100 times. I've emptied your trash. I've wiped your coffee rings. I've picked up the papers you leave scattered like someone else's problem." She looked directly at him. "You've walked past me 19 times. I counted. 19 times you looked right through me like I was furniture, like I was nothing." The Singapore investors were completely forgotten now. This was no longer a business meeting. It was something else entirely. A reckoning. "But today," Elena said, "today, I made a choice." The schedule didn't say this room was empty. I knew exactly what was happening here. I knew you had your big, important meeting with your big, important investors. She straightened her uniform, lifted her chin. "I walked in on purpose." Marcus felt the ground shift again. "Why?" he whispered. "Because I needed to see." Her voice was steady now, strong. "I needed to know if there was anything left of the boy I fed, the boy I believed in. I needed to know if Marco Vargas was still in there, somewhere underneath Marcus Webb." She gestured around the room. "And now I know." "What do you know?" Elena picked up the photograph from the table, looked at it one more time, then looked at the man standing in front of her. "I know that when you saw me, really saw me, not the uniform, not the cart, but me, you didn't call security. You didn't have me dragged out. You told them to stop." She placed the photograph in his hands. That hesitation, that moment, that's Marco. He's still in there, buried under all this glass and money and fear. But he's there. Marcus looked at the photograph, his vision blurred. "I didn't come here to destroy you," Elena said. "I could have. I could have gone to the press. Billionaire humiliates the woman who saved his life." You know how fast that would spread? You know what that would do to your reputation? To your investors? She glanced at the Singapore delegation. They shifted uncomfortably. "But that's not why I'm here. I'm here because my husband died 3 years ago. And before he died, he made me promise something." She pulled out one more item from her cart, an envelope, yellow with age. "He made me write this letter. To you," he said. "One day that boy is going to forget who he is. And when that happens, you need to remind him." She handed Marcus the envelope. "Roberto always believed in you, even when you disappeared, even when you never called. He'd see you on TV and say, 'Our Marco is doing big things.' Never bitter, never angry, just proud." Marcus held the envelope like it might burn him. "He's gone now. The restaurant is gone. Our neighborhood is gone, bought up by developers building condos for people like you." She stepped back. "But I'm still here. And so is that letter. And so is the boy in that photograph." She looked at him one final time. "The question is, what are you going to do about it?" Marcus opened the envelope. His hands were trembling. The paper inside was thin, fragile, the kind that yellows with time and care. Roberto's handwriting, he recognized it instantly. Blocky letters, careful spacing, the handwriting of a man who had learned to write late in life and treated every word like it mattered. "Marco, if you're reading this, Elena kept her promise. She always keeps her promises. That's why I married her 52 years ago and never regretted a single day. I don't know what kind of man you've become. Maybe rich, maybe famous. Maybe you've forgotten the kid who burned the rice 3 times before getting it right. Maybe you've forgotten the Sunday mornings when we'd close the restaurant and I'd teach you to play dominoes while Elena made café con leche. But I haven't forgotten, and I need to tell you something before I go." Marcus had to stop. His chest was too tight. The room had disappeared. The investors, the executives, the billions of dollars. None of it existed. There was only this letter, this voice from the grave, this man who had treated a homeless teenager like a son. He kept reading. "You came to us broken. I know broken because I was broken once too. Cuba, the boat, the things I saw that I never told anyone, not even Elena. Broken people recognize each other. It's like a frequency only we can hear. But here's what I learned, Marco. Broken doesn't mean finished. Broken means you have cracks. And cracks are where the light gets in, but also where the darkness leaks out. You get to choose which one. I watched you choose light. For 3 years, I watched you fight your way out of the darkness. Every dish you washed, every floor you mopped, every book you read in the storage room when you thought no one was watching, that was you choosing light. And then you left, which was right. Birds are supposed to leave the nest. That's the whole point of building one. But here's what I need you to remember. Even if you forget everything else, the nest doesn't stop being home just because you flew away. And the people who built it don't stop loving you just because you stopped calling. Elena cries sometimes. She doesn't think I notice, but I do. She watches your interviews and cries, not because you left, because you look so alone, because the boy in the storage room had fire in his eyes, and the man on television has something else, something cold. I'm dying, Marco. Cancer, the kind that doesn't negotiate. I've made my peace with God and with my life, but I can't make peace with losing you. Not to death, to forgetting. So here's what I'm asking. Not money. We never wanted your money. Not fame. We don't care about that. I'm asking for one thing. Remember who you are. Remember where you came from. Remember that success isn't measured by what you build, but by how you treat the people who can't do anything for you. And if you ever see Elena again, if life brings you back together somehow, tell her that I kept my promise too. I believed in you until my last breath. You were our son, Marco. You still are. Don't forget that. Roberto. Marcus set the letter down. The silence in the room was different now. Not the silence of power and intimidation. The silence of witnesses, of people who had just seen something they weren't supposed to see. He looked at Elena, at the woman who had waited 20 years for this moment, who had walked into a room full of billionaires in a cleaning uniform and reclaimed a son. I'm sorry. The words came out broken, small. Nothing like the voice of a man who commanded empires. I'm sorry I forgot. I'm sorry I walked past you 19 times. I'm sorry I became someone Roberto wouldn't recognize. Elena's eyes filled with tears. I'm sorry I wasn't there when he died. I'm sorry I let the restaurant close without helping. I'm sorry I erased you both so I could pretend I built myself from nothing. He looked at the investors, at his executives, at the people who had only ever known Marcus Webb, the visionary, the disruptor, the man who needed no one. This meeting is over, he said. Marcus, his COO started. I said it's over. He walked around the table, past the leather chairs, past the clippings scattered across polished wood. He stopped in front of Elena. I can't bring Roberto back, he said. I can't undo 20 years of silence, but I can do something. He took off his jacket, placed it over the back of a chair. Sabre to Cuba, he said. We're going to rebuild it. Same location if we can get it. Same recipes, same everything. Not as a business investment, as a memorial. Roberto's legacy. Elena shook her head. Marco, the neighborhood is gone. The building is a condo now. Then we buy the condo. We tear it down. We rebuild the restaurant exactly as it was. He took her hands. And we put a sign above the door. Roberto's Place. So everyone who walks in knows whose dream they're standing in. Elena was crying now. 20 years of waiting, of hoping, of clipping articles and praying. All of it releasing at once. There's one more thing, Marcus said. What? He looked at her cleaning cart, at the mops and sprays and rubber gloves. You're done with this. Today was your last day. Marco, I can't just... You're not quitting. You're being promoted. He smiled. The first real smile he'd made in years. I need someone to run the foundation. Someone who knows what it's like to believe in people when no one else does. Someone who can look at broken kids and see light instead of darkness. He squeezed her hands. I need my mother. Elena broke, completely. She pulled him into an embrace, the kind of embrace she'd given him 20 years ago behind a dumpster in Little Havana, when he was just a starving boy with nowhere to go. Welcome home, mijo, she whispered. Welcome home. The conference room was empty now. The investors had left. The executives had scattered. But Marcus didn't notice. He was too busy remembering who he was.